Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Slingin Leather, Southern California's official combat sports show. And I am your host, Scuba Steve. Thank you all for tuning back in, and we are coming back to you guys for part 2 of the Double Fight Week Extravaganza, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, 2 huge events on Saturday, and the biggest boxing match since Mayweather versus Pacquiao is taking place. Terrance "Bud" Crawford will be taking on Errol "The Truth" Spence Jr. for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world in a fight that they are dubbing as the fight of the century, a superlative that they gave to Mayweather versus Pacquiao, and now they've dubbed this as the true fight of the century. And I would certainly agree. These two are in their prime. These two are two of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And I could certainly see this is the real fight of the century. Mayweather versus Pacquiao was great in its own right. But those two are obviously way past their prime and the fight probably should have happened about 5 years earlier. And now that we have so many great fighters actually fighting each other, it's going to be incredible to see what happens and who's going to capture this welterweight strap. This one's taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central for my friends in Chicago. And I got to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't be more excited that boxing has continued to perpetuate its hot streak of unbelievable fights as of late. And we have none other than Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia to thank for this. Ever since Gervonta "Tank" Davis made the liver quiver of Ryan Garcia, many other top contenders have actually started to fight each other, which many people thought was a serious problem with boxing. Many fighters were avoiding each other until they were way past their prime, and Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia did an incredible job of starting the trend of fighters wanting to fight the absolute best in boxing. And we've seen incredible fights since. We saw Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko in a very controversial decision, but still very, very good fight. We saw Canelo Alvarez versus John Ryder in Jalisco. Great event to watch. Incredible finish and a great showing for Canelo. We had another incredible lightweight matchup between Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez. And just earlier this week on Tuesday, technically triple fight week. But you know, Saturday's the real fight day. In Japan on Tuesday, Naoya Inoue captured the junior featherweight title against Stephen Fulton. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the biggest out of all of them. Terrance Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. The boxing world could not be buzzing anymore about this fight. They've given all the superlatives they possibly could just so everyone recognizes the magnitude of this event, because we got the number 1 and number 4 pound-for-pound fighters in the world going at it for an undisputed championship, ladies and gentlemen. And let's start with Terrance "Bud" Crawford. Crawford right now sits at the number 1 pound-for-pound boxer spot in the world. He is sitting at an incredible record of 39 wins, no losses, with 30 knockouts. And he's been such a finisher as of late. The last decision he won was in 2016 over Victor Postol. And this shows just how good that Terrance Crawford has become since 2016. He's known for his ability to switch stances and essentially be 2 fighters in one, and his impeccable timing when fighters are coming in and utilizing his devastating power punching to get finishes. And despite his reputation of being a slow starter, many people are giving him a really, really good chance in this fight. Obviously, he's the pound-for-pound best. He's a little bit older than Spence. He's currently 35, while Spence is 33. And I think the biggest asset for Terrance Crawford in this fight is going to be having to take control of this pace. It's going to have to be to slow Errol Spence down. He's going to be doing that by landing the harder counter shots between the two. And this is going to be the biggest imperative for Crawford in this fight, because simply Errol Spence is the type of guy to bring the fight to you. Errol Spence Jr. right now is the number 4 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, sitting at a 28-0 record with 22 knockouts and coming off a doctor stoppage win against Yordenis Ugas in a great performance in a fight where he really showed his piston-like jab and lightning-fast hands. And I think there are going to be a lot of roadblocks en route to a victory for Errol Spence if he's able to get this. you have to respect the counterpunching of Terrance Crawford, and you're going to have to realize that you are going to be fighting essentially two guys in there. Terrance Crawford has different assets from each side of the plate. Either stance he's fighting in, he is going to be able to touch you with shots that can put you out cold, as he's shown in his previous fights. But the biggest thing he's going to have to do is get Crawford on the back foot early. His pressure needs to be Tony Ferguson and Nate Diaz-like. He is going to have to come forward and establish that he is the big dog in this fight. He is the naturally bigger welterweight between the two, and if he's able to establish that jab, and if he's able to really nullify the momentum that Crawford could get from landing some hard counterpunches, if he's able to stay defensively composed and stay offensively minded and offensively careful while not throwing caution to the wind and still landing good jabs and good shots, I think there's a very big chance of Errol Spence to win this fight. However, there are so many X factors when you have two fighters that are so close in skill set. You have the biggest X factor of them all, in my opinion, because this is going to dictate the entire pace of the fight, and it's going to be who wins the lead hand battle between the two. Errol Spence's jab is stuff of legend, and Terrance Crawford's timing and defense are going to have to be on point for him to really be able to deal with that. And Crawford has done a good job, especially in the Victor Postol fight. He did a great job of using his lead hand to, nullify Postol's jab, and by doing that, he was able to win the decision. And I think Errol Spence's jab is going to be much harder to deal with than Victor Postol, but I think that Crawford is the more experienced fighter in there, and he does definitely have the tools and the timing and the speed defensively to deal with that weapon that Spence offers. I do also think the styles make matchups essence is huge here, because which style will be able to land the more significant shots on the other is another huge X factor in this fight. Terrance Crawford's counterpunching is first rate. It's arguably it is most likely the best in the world right now. And with Errol Spence still being the faster fighter overall, I still think it's going to be tough for Terrance Crawford to land these counterpunches as effectively as he could against other fighters with a less should I say, I'm losing it. A more authoritative jab, should I say. A stronger jab. Whoever's going to be able to establish their game and establish their style, I feel like is going to realize the more success in this fight. And just going all the way down to how the judges are going to score this fight, it's been a lot different on how judges have approached scoring fights. Ever since the Mayweather era has ended, they haven't really valued defense as much as they once did when Floyd was on top. And I feel that based on the decisions as of late, especially the George Kambosos versus Maxey decision that happened last Saturday, I think they're really taking into heavy account who's pushing the action, because Maxey Hughes boxed George Kambosos out in that fight. He completely outboxed him in that fight, and I had him winning that. However, it showed the value that judges put on ring generalship and how they put the emphasis on creating the fight, on taking the fight to your opponent. And I think there's a clear advantage here for Errol Spence Jr. And I think despite the significant shots that Terrance Crawford will land and will definitely probably put it on Errol Spence Jr. at some point in this fight, I don't see either man finishing each other, to be honest with you. Terrance Crawford, an incredible power puncher, as well as Errol Spence Jr., I just don't think anyone's going to be able to land a definitive shot or a clean enough shot to where either fighter is going to be finished. Now, based on that fact alone, and based on this, in my opinion, this fight most likely going to decision, I have Errol Spence upsetting Terrance Crawford in this fight by decision. I think it is going to be unanimous, and I think it is going to labor a lot on Errol Spence's ability to come forward and put the pressure on Terrance Crawford. And absolutely huge fight. I still think this is a coin flip, much like Gaethje versus Poirier, but this is going to be certified fireworks and a magnificent cultural event for boxing. One of the most recent times that the world has really stopped and watched the buildup of this fight, much like Mayweather and Pacquiao. But I got to hear what you guys think, ladies and gentlemen. Put your comments down below on who you think takes both of these fights this weekend. Either it's Poirier Gaethje or Errol Spence versus Terrance Crawford. I would like to hear your guys' 2 cents on each of them. Hit the like and subscribe button for more of Southern California's official combat sports show. And we're going to post recaps for both of these events next week, ladies and gentlemen. And I will see you guys then. I hope you all have an incredible fight weekend.